I went to the third and final interview. A few days later, I was offered a position in Georgia to be the district health director for the northwest section of Georgia.
Dr. Eric Walsh was a respected director of public health in California, serving the poor in the trenches of the Los Angeles area. He also served on President Obama's Presidential Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS.
We had opened up a dental clinic for HIV-positive individuals, and we were able to fund this clinic and allow those individuals to get care.
Dr. Walsh was an associate pastor in his church. His desire to serve the sick is based on his religious faith.
My mother was a single mother, and what got us through, what kept us out of trouble, what led us down a path to education where I now have 2 doctoral degrees, was the fact that I came from a denomination that holds education in high regard, and medicine and medical missionary work in high regard. And all those things were part of what protected me growing up. So I've held on to those beliefs.
After accepting Georgia's offer to serve as the Director of Health for Northwest Georgia, Dr. Walsh began preparing to move his family across the country. Then Dr. Walsh received an unexpected request from the state. They asked him to submit copies of his sermons.
I submitted 4 sermons to someone in the department, high up in the department. They reviewed those sermons, and the next day I no longer had a job.
Politely sent them copies of the sermons themselves. They reviewed them, and the very next day they fired.
State officials called to let Dr. Walsh know he was fired by leaving him a voicemail. What they didn't realize is that they forgot to hang up their phones.
There's no warm way to say it anyway. You're out. Very fine.
They forgot to hang up the phone, and then I just hear laughter. And I just thought, man, this is pretty rough. I mean, they have to understand, being in the field, that me not getting that job is tantamount to the complete destruction of a career. And when they laughed, I mean, it was almost too much to bear. And in the whole process, I'd been pretty strong, but that was the point where I wept.
First Liberty came to Dr. Walsh's defense and filed a complaint against the state for firing him for his religious beliefs.
Kind of blown away at the idea that in the United States, you could be a lay pastor and on the weekend, deliver messages to congregations, and that could be used against you when you apply for a job or when you're offered a job.
That's not religious liberty in this country. At the very minimum, I expect that religious liberty means that we can find sanctuary in our own sanctuary.
First Liberty is committed to defending Dr. Walsh's right to talk about his faith outside of work. No American should be fired for something they say in a sermon.
This is allowed to stand. It sets an incredibly terrible precedent for a country that's supposed to be based on certain inherent freedoms and rights. And if this is erased for Eric Walsh, it's erased for generations to come.